there. The first working day for the week, Monday, the 24th day of the month of April 2017. Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM here in the city of Abeokuta, the voice of the people. Yes, Citizens Forum this morning. Dele Ayodo is my name.
And I am Tobi Joseph. This morning on Citizens Forum, we'll be looking at a whole lot of constitutional issues, especially when we look at the issue of uprightness in this ongoing effort to stamp out corruption. Corruption, that monster, making a mockery of our democracy out of Nigeria. You look at the lingering crisis between the executive and the legislative arm of government over the confirmation or non-confirmation of Magu as substantive chairman. He has been acting for some time now. Some legal minds have said that the presidency really does not need the confirmation of the Senate as regards Magu because the exclusive powers rest with the presidency according to the constitution to actually continue. The National Assembly is standing on the other side of that particular position, saying that no, they actually believe that the DSS, which is also under the presidency, relying on the report of the DSS submitted to it, cannot go ahead to confirm Magu because of the weighty allegations against him. The federal government has also insisted that it is either Magu or nobody else. You might begin to wonder why are we drawing such a conclusion? Because Mr. Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, a few days ago reiterated this position, saying that they stand with Magu. And a lot of people actually took that position as the latest and actually one that is coming from the president himself. For the vice president to say that, it means that that is the position of Mr. President. That has also set the Senate and the federal government on a new coalition course. And I think the only way out of this little quagmire, as the executive and legislative arm of government are trying to ease out of their tension-soaked relationship, which is also affecting a whole lot of things. You realize that resident electoral commissioners of INEC were not confirmed because of this. And that is that the reason given by the Senate is that all these issues, especially as regards Magu and other issues, have to be resolved by the executive before now. The SGF has been booted out of office because of all these issues also. Some believe that beyond the issue of corruption and allegations against him, it's also one of the ways to ease this tension and, of course, a very forced relationship with the legislative arm of government. We will be solving this little impasse this morning with the Constitution, and that is why we brought a learned fellow to the studio, a lawyer, Adetunji Onabawo.
Yeah, to be the man Magu appears to be winning the war of the minds in Nigeria. If you look at the latest discoveries, particularly the Osborne Tower story, he appears to be creeping into the hearts of Nigerians who feels now that he is fit for the job, and his no-nonsense position that federal government has placed about him appears to be a confirmed one, and therefore morally he will be able to do the job. Well, if you also look at the other side of the story, some people have also been using that is a mere media stunt to put Magu in the forefront of this rush or this fight to have him confirmed as the authentic chairman of the anti-graft agency. Well, morality beyond that, the constitution has its own position, and that is what people have also argued about. Some people have said in the first instance, the federal government were wrong to have even sent the name to the National Assembly again. But let's look at the uprightness of all these issues. Well, the latest swearing of the what do you call it, of Magu, and then the position of the National Assembly and that of Mr. President, as Tobi has said earlier. We have a former ex-official member of Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Adetunji Onabawo, with us. Good morning, Mr. Onabawo.
Good morning, gentlemen of the press.
All right, Lion Abawo. Let us first start with what some lawyers have called the major misstep in this whole situation taken by the federal government. Was the federal government wrong in forwarding the name of Magu to the Senate for confirmation?
Going by the constitution, the federal government was wrong. But terrain is so saturated with politics. And when politics is placed in the front burner, at times there will be slips of law here and there. And that is exactly, to me, that's what happened. But the law remains the law.
Can we go into the law books, as it were, which you are relying upon to say that that the presidency erred in forwarding the name of Magu to the Senate?
The foundation of every democracy or governance is the constitution. And in our own case, we have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as variously amended. And one thing is very, very basic. If you look at the subsection 1, and subsection 3, that one, as usual, talks about the supremacy of the Constitution. To be specific here, subsection 3 of section 1 talks about that the Constitution is supreme, that every other law, any law, be it federal, state, or even bylaw of the local government, which runs contrary to the provision of the Constitution on the same issue, remains void to the extent of that inconsistency. That is the position. That is the because the Constitution is the ground norm, is the watershed, the fountain of every other law or institution in any country.
Mr. Onabawo, we have a professor of law,
Yes,
a senior advocate of Nigeria,
yes,
at the forefront of this issue. How did they make that mistake in the first instance?
Mistake or no mistake? Well, even if you see the hierarchy of courts and interpretation of law and what have you, you will see even on at the state level, you can find the customary court, the magistrate court, then from there appeal to high court, from high court to court of appeal, from court of appeal to the Supreme Court, and that will be the final bus stop. They are just the final bus stop, not because they have all the laws or the wisdom about the law in their head. It is because they are the final place. So in the system, you find nobody knows the law all through. But the most important is that, okay, when you miss your way, when you are going from Abeokuta to Ijebu and you pass through, you face a Meko. When you get to Ayodo, when you miss your way, the best thing is to turn back, not to say, well, I will go further, then I will turn this, I turn that to get to Ijebu.
Now, you talk about politics in the first instance. Incidentally, the popularity of the Senate or the credibility appears to have been eroded by so many. So Nigerians appear not to have much respect for them like they do for the executive arm. Now, is it not the executive that is playing the politics now? You said they've missed their way. Why can't they appear the court for a proper interpretation of this rather than insisting that that is what they will do? Why don't they appear the court as an arbiter?
The court is, you see, we call something separation of very structural division among the tiers of, among the arms of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Out of the three, it's only the judiciary that have something like a cast iron around it, in between the executive and the legislature, because they are politically created. They have a window of opportunity to just open and see what is going on there. Then across them, they can have handshakes. So all those avenues are there. One is to watch the other. The legislature, being the grassroots representative of the people, are there just to see that the executive arm of government is executing the laws as they should. And there is always this interrelation. When you want to start the National Assembly, it is the president who will come there to proclaim it and declare it open and inaugurate. So that is why the constitution now puts a lot of things like what they normally refer to as oversight function. If you want to appoint somebody to a particular place, the constitution stipulate that, okay, let the representative of the people look at it and see that that's a very good and proper person to do the job. Now, that being so, and you know, majority of political party that the president and everything, so that is always there. It's only that the judiciary that don't have anything because in common with them, because the judiciary is appointment based. Then two, if there is a dispute between any arm of government, one arm between one and the other, it is the judiciary that will intervene. If there is a dispute between citizen and citizen, the judiciary. If it is between the citizen and the government, the judiciary. So in between there, all these things, if they are not pushing politics into it, like I said, the law, some people will say it's a NASS, and nobody is a full reciprocity of all laws. So when we are operating the law with the spirit, if somebody makes a mistake, I say, okay, no, I made that mistake, but look at the law. What does it say? This is what he says that I should do. Then if it is not politics and ego and playing to the gallery, you say, it's okay, we are now realize that that is your position. Then let me tell you something. In all judicial pronouncements from the entire gamut, when an issue has become a popular thing, that it has been, they say it is settled, and you know that this is what the interpretation has been given. You don't go again and again to the approaching court. So that is what is putting some lot of pressure on our judicial system in this country, because all settled issues are always being brought back.
But it appears we are at a crossroad over this. The National Assembly has stated their position clearly. They will not take Magu. FG is saying it is Magu. So when you say there is a dispute now, then the court will have to come in.
The National Assembly, when they are saying they will not take Magu, it's just abuse of power.
You know, some people will say it is the federal government that is abusing.
No, it's abuse of power, because I will refer to, there had been in recent times, there had been instances when the Supreme Court, when issues like this about conflict between the Constitution and the federal or state law is brought to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, the practice is that they will constitute a full court. When I say full court, of a panel of 7 justices. Their normal sitting is for just 5. But when there is what we call recondite position of law or difficulty of constitutional interpretation, most of the time when it is an issue of interpretation of the Constitution, they constitute a full court to deal with the matter. And recently, during this all this democracy since 1999, at least once, which I can readily know of now, is the case between the National Conscience Party and the National Assembly. You know, the National Assembly passed the electoral law of 2010, saying that, okay, the political party, they can register. The NCP went to court and challenged it. And there and then, the judgment of the court is to declare that part of section, is it 72 something, now null and void for being inconsistent with a particular provision of the Constitution, section 221 or so, talking about political parties and their registration. And they all know it. The National Assembly was a party to that case. So what are we talking about?
This is what we are talking about. I like your analogy of somebody who is going to Ijebu and then went towards Imeko, the direction of Imeko, and after realizing that he was at the wrong and turned back. Now, in this occasion, the two do not believe that they are at the wrong hand, or rather, the executive is the one who realizes that they are at the wrong hand. To you first, as a lawyer, as a Nigerian, why must it be Magu? Why can't the federal government come up with another name and then use section 419 they had saying sorry, section 491, that thing, and then just place the man there.
As far as I know, all what we are talking about is about the constitution. If we start to run away from all these issues as they approach us, and we maybe meander into a convenient route, then our democracy is not growing. Our democracy is not growing. You see, the whole thing in this matter revolves around, apart from the section 1 of the constitution about the supremacy, revolves around section 171, I think, of the constitution. That section 171 of the constitution creates the public service of the federation.
When I say, he did not say it has to be one person. You as a Nigerian, can you convince me why it must be Magu? Even with all the controversy now, particularly with all the controversy, why must it be
as
Magu?
a lawyer, all what I need to convince you is about the position of the law and the supremacy of the constitution. When I do that, that is the end. Every other issue will be sentimental, emotional, or even political.
Okay, let's see how you can convey, because National Assembly's position is that this appointment must pass through them for confirmation, and which the federal government has done and failed before now wanting to twist it according to them.
Like I said, section 171 of the constitution creates the public service. And when you say public service, it includes the civil service as it is. The head of service sits at the pinnacle, permanent secretary and what have you. Then they are all what this we call, including EFCC, extra ministerial bodies.
Departments and agencies.
And they have their own. You see, in that one section, section 171.1, the president, the power to appoint some categories. There are 3 divisions there, or about 4. The power to appoint resides in the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then section 2 of that section 171 talks about those offices concerned. 1, the secretary to the government of the federation, that is 1. Head of civil service of the federation, that is 2. Ambassadors, high commissioners, or other principal representatives of Nigeria abroad, that is the 3rd one. The 4th one, permanent secretary in any ministry or head of any extra ministerial department of the government of the federation, howsoever designated.
Which EFCC
that is where the EFCC. So simply, that section is the creator. It creates those extra ministerial appointment. That is, it is the constitution, the EFCC as a body.
Power to appoint. Can we further go into that? Because that is power to appoint.
Any office, that is the last of all those of you, any office on the personal staff of the president. Now, it takes them one by one in subsection 3. Appointments to the office of the head of the civil service of the federation are not be made except from among so and said about that. Then it follows, an appointment to the office of ambassador, high commissioner, or other principal representative of Nigeria abroad shall not have effect unless the appointment is confirmed by the Senate. That is for ambassadors. Then further, he just said, in exercise the powers of appointment under this section, the president shall have regards to the federal character and all those ones. Then any appointment made pursuant to A and E of section 2 of this section shall be at the pleasure, that is, the secretary to the federal government and the office of the personal staff. Those 2 are made at the pleasure, and they will hold office at the term of the president. So when he goes, he goes. So throughout section 171, the offices is created. The only office he specifically, the constitution says, that shall be confirmed by the Senate is ambassadors, representative of this country abroad. Is specific provision. And when, in canon of interpretation, the specific mention on one thing, exclude any other ones. So here,
So once one item has been mentioned,
yes, it excludes
there
those.
cannot be any assumption.
No, that is very, very specific. When talking about the office, takes them one by one and then say in the appointment of ambassadors, the confirmation of the Senate is needed. As for the SGF, silent. As the permanent secretary, head of service, silent. As personal staff, silent.
And that is the category where the chairman of the EFCC
It falls in.
So,
Extra ministerial department, the head of that extra ministerial department, howsoever designated, that is the root, that is the creation.
But this is a
EFCC.
practice we have been involved for quite some time. Why have we not noticed this? Why suddenly this issue? That's what some people feel, rather than seeking the interpretation or the constitution to give us a way out, is mere politicking.
My brother, I've said it once on this platform that we have not gotten much anywhere in terms of our democracy. There are a lot of impunities in the ground, and it continues until or occasionally when the problem specifically rears its head like this, then we come to it. And the fact that you've been doing something in a particular way does not mean it is the right thing to do. And I must tell you, those who are operating our constitution now, those the politicians, they have not imbibed the spirit of the law itself. They are only juggling and workings on the apparent and even interpreting the law the way they please. So that is our problem.
Now, again, from all these lessons learned from it, do you not think the constitution are giving too much powers to the executive, particularly those who are heading the executive, the president and the governors?
Well, one thing, we always go back to the source of these constitutions that we are operating, that we have operated and are still operating. The 1979 constitution, the aborted one in 1992 by Abacha, and this one 1999. They have their source and base in autocratic military rules. And you see, the funny thing is that when they are making this constitution, deliberately, they left some of all this king does no wrong philosophy in which they have been operating. They left it there. And you see, because our politicians to who are coming, they are except their regalia, some of them in mind they are so autocratic more than the military in their disposition. Some of these things, they see it that it should not be in the democratic system, but because they are benefiting therefrom, they leave it there. Take the case of when they talk about security votes. In the parliamentary system we operated before the intervention of the military in 1966, there was nothing like every kobo of the government must be accounted for and audited and accounted for and retired if possible. But when the military came, the security, we need security. Then they started doing it. When our people now came, didn't they see it that this one does not follow the spirit and the letters of the constitution which we are operating under democracy, because democracy is about rule of law, but they retain it, and up to now there has not been a very serious issue against that security vote until we are hearing about this Kaduna and Dogara something. But at the end of the problem will still come again, because as far as I know, nobody, no public officer should spend a kobo out of the public fund without accounting for how he spent it and retiring the remainder.
Lawyer Onabawo, what does this say about the competence and knowledge of the National Assembly, especially the Senate in this case, about the Constitution and the laws they are paid to make, if they do not have correct, simple interpretation of the Constitution they amend, they make, and they actually preside over?
That is exactly what I've been saying all along. All these operators, all these our partisan politicians, all what they know is about this Awala Wambe syndrome. they want to behave like the executive, that they want to. When you hear about all these constituency projects, from this constitution, where did they derive that? But because they too wanted to be managing and embezzling funds like is available to the executive. That is why we are hearing about up till now a National Assembly making laws. We have made laws that all of us are expected to obey. You don't know, the executive will bring the budget of the whole country to them for them to see, cross, remove, add, and everything. But what about their budget? Nobody knows what is happening to their own budget. That is, you see, we all this crop of politicians we are having there, particularly in the legislature, they completely, from the beginning, they lost focus. They lost focus, and they like flexing muscles.
Now, are you confirming that constitutional projects, constituency projects, are not backed by the constitution?
You can never find anything there. What they cling to always is that they say oversight function. Oversight function is about when we pass a budget to be executed by the executive arm of government. That the executive arm of government has to be making some returns about how far we have been implementing the budget, because the budget itself is an act of the National Assembly giving returns that, okay, this is how we have done, because in another few months another budget will be coming, so that when they are making another budget, they will have a feedback on how far the project. So in that wise, they have the right to inspect and see how far. The other thing is that in the preparation of the budget itself, about works and projects, about roads, the constitution requires the executive government to spread all developmental projects across the country, that no side of the country is left underdeveloped. And as the representative of the people, all what the law requires of them is to see that when the budget is being brought, that okay, you want to do fertilizer project here, you want to do here, you want to do that. I can ask the question, what about my own area? What have you? That is all. But to give them money and they choose contractor to be executing community projects, they lost it.
Mr. Onabawo, obviously this disagreement, the dispute between the two arms is affecting governance. The National Assembly has placed on hold conferment of resident electoral officers, commissioners, which you know, and of course the budget, 2017 budget. Apparently, there must be an end to this. There must be a way to resolve it. How do you think it should be resolved?
Well, one point we always miss in our discourse about the problems of this country is that no country will develop without hardship. Even the Europe and America you are talking about today attained those positions on the blood of some of their people. So, but it is we here we don't want to suffer any hardship. As far as I'm concerned, let the music play. Let them play the music. Then let the music continue playing. If we as citizens of this country suffer from all this they are doing, we are looking at them. Then that will build up our own understanding and knowledge about what governance should be. All these things that are happening, it suits me because it will help our development. It's better than the soldiers to come again, because if any soldier comes now, it will be about another 20 steps backward from about 5 steps we have gained. Let this thing continue. As long as we utilize every opportunity, like all this platform of your radio station made available by the amendment to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In those good days, I cannot say bad days, they are all media, as far as the private sector is concerned, is always consigned to the print. But now we have all those opportunity rendering information first-hand to people. Yes, that is part of development. Let us continue to be talking about it.
Now, let me ask you again. Officially, the nation's population is said to be about 180 million. Out of that 180 million, there are 80 million adults. Why is it difficult to get one person out of that 80 million to do this EFCC job?
Well,
Or why is it that it is only one person out of the 80 million that can do the job?
let me tell you, democracy is a premise on the platform of rule of law. You see, there is one Latin maxim we came across when we were studying law that let the law operate, or let carry out the law, even if the heaven will fall. The rule of law is better than the rule of man, the whimsical attitude of human beings. All what we are talking
But
about.
who made the law?
Men
made the law.
What you made the law. Once you make it, it must guide all what you do. If we leave it to, okay, let the president say what he likes, we are in serious danger. Very serious danger. No country will ever develop in that. When the law says that this is your power, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do, let us follow that. Let us forget about ego. All what we are seeing here, for example, the National Assembly is threatening that if you want to deal with issues, what is the business of the recent electoral confirmation to the issue of EFCC chairman? They are not related. It simply means they are being egocentric and they are
they are not related.
They are not related.
No, but their position is this: if you don't respect me, I will not respect you.
Who gave them the respect? All this respect they are talking about. It is not the constitution. That is why they always miss it. It is even on the office they are operating, they are occupying. The Senate president, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the national that is created by this same constitution. Let us go back to that constitution and respect it. It's not a respect for individual, but respect for the law.
All right, if you're just joining us this morning on Citizens Forum, we have in the studio a lawyer, Adetunji Onabawo. He's a legal practitioner based here in Ogun State. And of course, together we are looking at the federal government insistence on Magu's confirmation as substantive chairman of EFCC and the different position of the Senate. We're asking a very pertinent question this morning between the federal government, the National Assembly or the Senate, and of course the Constitution. Who is upright? We'll take a break now for the national news at 10. After that, we will come back and continue our discussion. So Lawyer Onabawo will still be here in the studio. In the meantime, you can start sending your comments or questions to 32120. Just type rock, R-O-C-K, leave a space, type your message, include your name, and send to 32120. Our Twitter handle remains at RockCityFM. Just tweet us your questions or comments. And our Facebook fan page remains RockCityFM 11.9. Stay with us, we'll be back.
Thanks for still being there. We are back for the second and final half of the Daybreak Show Citizens Forum on Rock City 101.9 FM here in Abeokuta. Yes, and indeed we are the voice of the people. We've been looking at the Magu issue. The federal government, the National Assembly, the Constitution itself, which of these is upright? And we have with us a former member of the national, an ex-official member of the Nigerian Bar Association, an Abeokuta-based lawyer, Mr. Adetunji Onabawo. Yes, sir, we have been looking at the uprightness of these three arms of government. Of course, it appears the position of Mr. Onabawo is that the federal government should go ahead, continue to use the Constitution as the basis for all its argument, and therefore Magu should still be the man to hold that office. Quickly, in defense or criticism of Magu, I know your position is that it is the constitution that might be used, but we are looking at CV, qualification, ability to also do the job, which must be considered. Do you think the recent discoveries are signs that the man can do, or is just a mere human show-off?
Well, thank you. I have read the profile of the man Magu. To me, by all the training and the courses he had the opportunity to pass through. He is an accomplished officer of the Nigerian police force. You know, he's a policeman.
He's also been alleged to have
And
some
you see,
skeletons.
you cannot. There's a proverb in Yoruba that say it is the little hand a rat has to rub his face that we use. You cannot go and borrow another hand to use it. So the EFCC itself, since the establishment, has been about over 95% dependent on the police force to draw its personnel and giving them some special training and what have you. So that is that. But about the allegations, you see, one thing that is just coming out every time from the fact that those who are operating the constitution now at the federal level, even at the states, they don't really appreciate the purport and the essence of the constitution itself and its provision. They always, from the personal angle, for the pageantry of office and everything, they embark on interpreting and implementing the constitution. You see, when allegations are made against somebody to be confirmed by the Senate and you invite him to the Senate, immediately those allegations borders on crime. Then you have no right to make use of it until that person has been tried by a competent court and found guilty of those crimes. Then it is then that upon conviction that you use that to disqualify him from that office. Even the constitution is there that you cannot do this, you cannot be this if you have been found guilty of any crime by a competent court. You know, in some days they say somebody has been indicted. What is the dictionary meaning of indict? But here, he appeared before the Senate. He could not defend. The man knows his onion. If you are trying to try me on something you are not competent to try me, when you ask the question, I'll just ignore it.
All right, yes, let's go back. Let's have you at one of the panelists. 0809-86-87344 and 0909-146-9670 for telephone the telephone numbers. Which of them is upright as it is right now? Is it, like Fela would say, stalemate that we are faced? You can also use the SMS 321220 is the number you take. Is this a fair comment? Is it fair on the legislators when people say they don't know the law? The Speaker, Dogara, is a lawyer. The Minority Leader is a lawyer. The Deputy Senate President is a lawyer. We have the likes of Babajide Omorare and so many other lawyers. Is it fair on these people to say they do not know the law?
Well, let me just make one clarification. There is a world of difference between a person qualified to practice law and the person who qualified and have been practicing law all along up to this moment. You see, a man who qualifies to practice law and has not been practicing it is even more dangerous to the public or the society than a stark illiterate, because an illiterate will stand at his position and will not project anything. But that person who has been called to bar, yes, after all, I'm a lawyer, and will start talking rubbish. So that is just it. The fact that some people have a LLB, LLM, or PhD after their name, that those ones are training. They are trained to. But the law as a profession is, if you are trained to do it and you don't practice it, it will leave you completely.
Okay, let's have those issues raised.
Well, there are our four callers. Dr. Ikong was just to comment, which I appreciate him. Tunde Omolaolu suggests constitutional review. Yes, this issue of constitutional review, revision, amendment, or outright making of a new constitution has always been. It is the issue even raised by Gafar Olusegun that what is NBA doing. But let me tell you something. The constitution as it is is the documents that we have to revert back to the process by which the constitution can be amended. But a successful constitution of the people can only come from a well-enlightened people themselves, who know the essence of law and order, who knows the essence of rule of law, who even from the house we learn to obey simple rules, who is not egocentric and always be whimsical about everything. So our society needs a continuous education and a sort of enlightenment to appreciate what the constitution is all about. And it is then now that the need to review what you have will be appreciated. So that is that. Mr. Kayode was talking about removal of well, his appointment was through a political process, and it can only be removed by that same political process.
Even the call to remove it, can it be said to be treasonable?
Well, the call to remove him is a fair. When we say remove an office holder, because the constitution is which creates all these offices, make provisions for their removal. There are provisions for if you want to remove the president, there's a provision. If you want to remove the vice president, the governor, the deputy governor, or even in their own rules, in the National Assembly, they have a process of removal. So that is nothing. There's nothing treasonable about it.
In Zambia, I don't know if you have been following me. The opposition leader Akende is being charged for treason for just blocking, not giving way to the president's convoy to overtake him on a highway.
You and I know the man who is the head of affairs there, and we know what his ambition is. So you see, in most part of Africa, you see all this.
No, I just do that if somebody can be charged for that, then and not for somebody who now come publicly.
That will not be a good example for even enlightened society like Nigeria. As bad as we are, that will not be a very not be a good reference point.
All right, Tobi, can we...
Magu should be retained. Those with skeletons and cockroaches in their cupboard are only afraid of Magu. Olaruwa from Obantuko sent him that. Abdurrashid Akela says, let's not deceive ourselves. Senators are not ready for this fight against corruption because it's like fighting against themselves. Beware of Magu. The fear of Magu is not the beginning of wisdom. God is on our side. More revelations are coming. The lawyer in the house, what can we do to show our dishonorable members a red card? They are really working against the progress of this country. A den of robbers, like Babas just said. God bless Nigeria, myself and Roxy FM. God bless you too, Abdurrashid Okena. Mrs. Akinsomi says Magu should be allowed to do his job. What the National Assembly is doing is that when Magu leaves, Nigeria will now start fighting corruption from the start again. EFCC is not a creation of the Constitution. The EFCC Act is an act of the National Assembly. It makes provision for confirmation of EFCC chairmanship nominee. Retaining Magu after a second rejection is raising the bar of executive impunity. That's coming from Chris. Dr. Onabawo, you want to quickly react?
EFCC is a creation of the National Assembly Act.
Well, that opinion is to the best of the knowledge of that's who has that opinion. By my own training and knowledge in the practice of law, like I've said, I've told you that the Constitution is the ground norm, is the watershed, the fountain of all laws. Every other law, any law, be it act or law or even by law, we have to be traceable and has a connection or root in the Constitution. And when the Constitution makes a statement on a particular issue, every other law will fall in line. If there's any inconsistency, that consistency will be blotted out automatically. You see, in the studio here, the people outside may not see. We have a copy of the Constitution and a copy of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act of 2004. Mark it. Creation and establishment are two different things. the High Court of Ogun State is created by Section 274 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But to establish the court to function for us in Ogun State, we have the High Court Law of Ogun State. That is the establishment law. So anything that is stated in EFCC Establishment Act of 2004 has to be in line with anything that the Constitution says. You see, all these things is generated by the ineptitude of the National Assembly, which we'll be talking about. I understand most of these acts you are talking about were executive bills. How has the National Assembly has been very, very functional to originate bill from their constituencies and fight it to the end? Why is it in the act of lawmaking that only majority of our bills are executive? No, we don't have even private bills. If you have any of them, they will kill it there. But when we have all these executive bills, politically they will handle it and then pass everything, pass it till everything is done. It is true, and nobody disputes it, that Section 2(3) talks about the chairman and members of the commission.
That's the EFCC Act.
I'm reading the EFCC Act now. I'm reading Section 2, subsection 3. The chairman and members of the commission, other than ex-official members, shall be appointed by the president, and the appointment shall be subject to confirmation of the Senate. That is in the Establishment Act of EFCC. But those who made this act, that National Assembly then, should have done their research very well and see that this section we are inciting there, I don't know who incited it, but most of the time this kind of session will be incited by the National Assembly themselves, so that to have some form of power on this everything. But if they have done their work very, very well, they should have noticed that Section 171(2) of the National Constitution has created some offices and specifically say those one that will require the confirmation of the Senate, that is appointment of ambassadors. There is other places in the Constitution whereby the certain things that have been done by the president has to be confirmed by the Senate. They are specifically written in the Constitution themselves. So when the Constitution has created extra ministerial establishment like the EFCC and does not talk about confirmation of the Senate, when they are making the establishment act, they should follow in line. They should follow in line. That is the point.
Okay, let us go back to messages. Yemi Da Vinci says, I must say a very big thank you to Barrister Onabawo for his sound submissions. Presidency should start addressing Magu as EFCC chairman straight up. I agree with Barrister Onabawo that many incurators of power know what is right in terms of principles of democracy, but won't do it. It's sad. If only Buhari had listened to Tinubu and worked against the emergence of Saraki, all these issues won't be happening. Dogara isn't cantankerous.
We should be careful not to destroy institutions. Whatever the argument may be, legal, constitutionally backed up, whatever it is, the institutions are also a creation of the Constitution. Things like these could erode the foundation of it. Don't you think so?
One thing we must appreciate at all times is that in any location, in a home, when immediately you have more than one person in a home, the crisis will naturally be generated. Our own attitude should not be that we should always run away from crisis or finding a very convenient and easy way to. The issue here is not about personality. People should understand it.
It's the institution.
It's
now,
about the institution.
Because those people we are talking about made up that institution.
When you see, they made up the institution, but at every time the legal status of those institutions, even when people are not occupying it, the legal status of that place remains and sacrosanct. When the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there's a time to round up, there's a time to proclaim another one, but we cannot say because a National Assembly is yet to be is about to be proclaimed, then the National Assembly remains a legal entity. But what is very, very important is that on occasions like this, we should separate individuals who occupy this institution from the institution itself, particularly when we feel that those people occupying those institutions have done something untoward or has been abusing their office. We should isolate their personality and condemn them for that, not just to rubbish the whole institution.
Abdul Kela also, even though it's a bit out of what we're discussing, but Abdul Kela also says that how can we simplify the process of showing lawmakers a red card? That's what in the Constitution called recall.
You know, when somebody talked about the review of the Constitution, I said, well, you need a very, very enlightened society to do that. Not ethnocentric or act of religious sentiment, and all those things like that. The provisions are there in the Constitution, but how far can we? You see, the legislators in the National Assembly, both senators and federal House of Rep, for example, they are expected to open standard office in their constituencies and well staffed and well equipped. That is part of the money they are earning as a general emolument. But how many of them have these offices? The people who voted them there, whom they claim they are representing, has that right to be going there from time to time that, okay, over the 2 weeks we are in the National Assembly, we had this, we had this. What is your position? What informed your position? What is, why you are doing what you are doing? But you see how many of these people have this concept. Then, how many have you have a time to recall anybody here? Even we are voting ordinarily, people are coming there to chase you out with guns. So for you now to say, okay, there'll be a referendum, we want to recall somebody, it will be extremely difficult because that is the level of society we are in now. So these things are possible, they are provided for in the Constitution, but we must imbibe the culture of the rule of law and imbibe the spirit of the Constitution itself and ready to suffer some hardships for us to be able to take full advantage of these provisions.
All right, let's go back to the messages.
Allegations. Even listening to Rock City at times during this program from home, see some people, despite the warning that, okay, don't make allegation, you cannot substantiate, people still go ahead that somebody is a thief, has done this, done that. At that level, where the Constitution is supposed to be given the full respect, DSS, SSS, or whoever, when you want to write a report, what you want to hear is that, look, Magu has stolen sometimes, has been taken to court and convicted, is an ex-convict. Automatically, an ex-convict cannot even hold any public office. For somebody to, this thing is very, very easy to do. If for no good reason I have something against somebody, I just pick my pen, write a petition to DSS and
Onabawo, quickly, unfortunately, but let me ask you, if you want to employ somebody and the person comes in with a first-class certificate from Harvard University, and then during your oral interview or tete-a-tete with the person, and you discover that the person cannot or is not convincing, we say because the certificate is a proof, substantial proof, that he graduated and has the ability to do the job, and then you reject your own feelings, your own insulation and conviction, volition that this person does not merit this job.
Yes, merit the job. You see, these things are should be placed in their different compartments. Qualification for the job, competence on the job. Then the third one, which some people may call the moral question, I don't think it's moral question, that if you have done something which by doing that thing, that you will not be a fit and proper person to do the job. You want to be catching thieves and you are saying you are a convicted thief. That is where the problem is with the report from the DSS and the SSS or whoever, or anything you will use against somebody to say you are not a fit and proper person, that must be something that has been subjected to the due process of law itself.
All right, that's it this morning. Thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for your tweets. And thank you for calling on the show.